In this video, I'll be doing an unboxing, setup and review of the Foundation Passport. The Foundation Passport can be a bit of a controversial device in some circles in that basically it got its start as a fork of the ColdCard, adding some additional functionality, a new user interface, but all of this caused a lot of drama which ultimately resulted in CoinKite changing the license from the ColdCard away from being open source. The Foundation Passport does remain open source and has continued to evolve in its own direction. But anyway, just something to be aware of in some of the reviews and commentary around this device that you might find out there online. I also bought this device, no freebies here, so let's get into it. And if you haven't already done so, hit subscribe, and that way you can stay in the loop for content I make to help you find your way in the crazy and often hostile environment that is cryptocurrency. So this is how it came. Basically, I've removed all the shipping labels and stuff off the box, and you can see it actually has a security seal here, which is numbered. Alright, so this is everything that comes in the box. Basically, we have our recovery seed sheet, we have a getting started guide, which just has a QR code and a web address on there. We've got some stickers, a USB-C cable, we've got an industrial grade MicroSD card, and two USB to MicroSD adapters, one that you can use with a USB-C port and another that you can use with an iPhone. So that's nice that those are bundled in. And then we have the Foundation Passport itself. So this is the Foundation Passport itself. Definitely has the feature phone look going for it in terms of the keypad, numbers and the buttons, the camera on the back. We can also open it up and there is the battery. There we go. And the battery can actually be removed for long-term storage if we want. So we'll put that back on. And look, we'll just peel the screen cover off like that. There we go. And the microSD card slot is actually on the top of the device here. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward. USB-C port at the bottom, camera at the back, and this, I'm guessing, is a power button here. So let's see what happens if we turn this on for the very first time. There we go. Welcome to Passport. Congratulations on reclaiming your sovereignty. So I'm guessing that's the button there. Yep. Okay. How would you like to set up your passport? So while we could do a manual setup and use this with some other wallet software, I'm just going to go with the default, which most people with this device would probably use. Continue on Envoy, install Envoy app. I wonder if I select that. Okay. So it just gives us a QR code. So we scan that QR code and it takes us to here. So we'll just say we got that on the Apple App Store because this is an iPhone. And there we go. So we'll just say get. Okay, and we'll just say open. Alright, so here we're going to manage a passport. Okay, so we can basically choose whether to connect to Envoy's servers over Tor or directly. Now, one of the key things to keep in mind when it comes to privacy is the question of who you are trying to remain private from. So it's important to understand that this feature you're being prompted for here is about keeping your usage of the Envoy app private from both your ISP and whoever else is running or controlling your network. I'm not too worried about that in this instance, so I'll just choose better performance and say continue. We say we want to set up a new passport, accept. Here we go. So we'll say next. So on the passport screen, select to scan the QR code. So basically, we will scan that one there, and this is going to basically be authenticating that this device is genuine. On Envoy, select next and scan the following QR code. Yep. Continue. Allow. So we are going to scan that QR code. There we go. Okay, so basically what this has done is just check the genuineness of this passport device here, which is always good to know. We'll just say continue. We'll say next. Security check result passed. Passed our security check result, so the device is genuine. So we'll say, okay, now it's time to set our PIN. So we'll say next. There is no way to recover a lost PIN or to reset the passport. And this is exactly the same as something like a ColdCard, but it's important to know this is different to something like a Ledger or a Trezor or even a Bitbox, where for a lot of hardware devices, if you forget your device PIN, you can just factory reset the device and start again. Whereas with things like this passport device or a ColdCard, if you forget the device PIN, your device is bricked. All right, so we're not up to that step yet, so we'll leave that on the phone. Okay, so let's set a PIN. Record your PIN somewhere safe. And look, I'll just make it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for now. Confirm PIN, 1, 2, 3, 456. Obviously you want to set it to be something more complicated, but I'll just set it to that for the demo. Pin set. There we go. Do you want to update the Passport's firmware now? Okay, so now we're back in sync with what we had on the phone. So let's just say yes. Please insert a microSD card. So over here on the phone, let's download the firmware. All right, so we'll take this industrial microSD card that came with it. Okay, so we'll use the provided adapter for an iPhone. Goes in like, there we go. And we'll insert that adapter in there. And we'll just say continue. Allow Envoy to access the microSD card, continue. And nothing happens. That sucks. That's interesting. So I can see this. This is a fairly old iPhone, so let's see if this works any better on Android. So we'll click on firmware. Okay, same firmware update screen that we had before. Download the firmware, insert your microSD card, so we'll stick it in there using the bundled reader. So continue. There we go. We'll download that file onto the Passport SD. So we'll say save. Envoy is now copying it. Continue. Remove the microSD. So on the phone, we'll just say unmount. Pull that. Let's stick this in here. So now we'll just over here left, and we'll go down to firmware and click tick and say update firmware. That is the passport.bin we downloaded before using the app. So let's select it. Firmware update, yes. Alright, so that firmware is updated, we'll just unlock it. And there we go. So let's create or restore a wallet seed. So we'll say next. So we'll say create new seed. Generate new seed phrase now, yes. Seed created and saved, great. So your Passport is about to create your first encrypted microSD backup. Okay. So we'll say next. On the next screen, you'll be shown your backup code that is required. Ah, okay. Yes. So our seed word recovery card has two things. It has this space for a backup code and space for the seed words themselves. So we'll say next. We recommend writing down the backup code on the encrypted security card. We consider this safe since you need this microSD and the backup code. So yes, it's explaining to you that this digital backup is there. So it's giving us the backup code. So we'll write that down. So we'll say yes, backup code quiz. So now we enter it correctly. It's nice we have a numerical keypad here, so we'll just do that. Enter the code correctly. Nice, so that was fully verified, so that was good. Please insert a microSD card. So we'll just put in the one that came with it. Go in this way. No, it goes in that way. There we go. Oh, there we go. So that's actually saved it on there as an encrypted 7-zip file. Now let's connect to Envoy. Okay. Yep. Get started. Continue. So we'll scan that QR code. There we go, connection successful. So that's great. And this validate receive address button is nice and blue, so we'll press that one because it is clearly where it wants us to go. So we'll click next. Now let's check the wallet is connected correctly. On the next place, scan receive address. All right, so this is the receive address just there. And there we go. So it's just validated that this receive address matches the seed that is on this device. So it's paired correctly. Address validated, yes. And we'll say yes, connection complete. Passport configured, you can now start using your device. So we're ready to go. So this is the Passport, and now we are in Envoy. And you will notice here we have two separate wallets. One was the hot wallet that I generated earlier, and the second is our Passport. Okay, so first things first, let's send some Bitcoin there. So I'll go here and say receive, go down here and say verify address, and we'll just scan that address. There we go. Receive address 5. That's interesting. So basically this Envoy app actually keeps incrementing the receive addresses even before we have used the earlier ones. But anyway, so let's send some Bitcoin there. Okay, so that address is there. I've actually sent that Bitcoin, overpaid dramatically on fees, but let's have a look. And there is the fund. So the question is, can we actually send this before it's confirmed? Some wallets will let you do this, others will not. So if I just say send and scan one of my tip addresses, there we go. So we'll put that one in. So if I just click on that balance, can we just send max? Is there a way to do that? Send max. Okay, so we scroll down, we can say send max, and then we say confirm. So in terms of the fees, so let's see, so we've got standard, we've got faster. If we get custom, okay, we can actually choose the fee rate that we want. So let's just go with standard for this one, and we'll say sign with passport, and then I'll click over here, parsing transaction. Right, so that is the transaction details there, amount, destination. So I'll just say next, change amount, no change, network fee. It does warn us the fee is large, which is expected at the moment. Fees look very high. Then we can say we want to sign the transaction, yes. All right, so this is the signed transaction just here. So you can now scan the QR code displayed on your passport with your phone camera. Okay, so we press this button down here. So, all right, so we scan that PSBT file. Right, and there is the transaction. And we can say send transaction, but I'm actually not going to click that right now. So let's just click back. Let's just say cancel transaction. All right, so let's just have a look at some of the menus on the device here. So let's just go into manage account. So what we can do here, so account details. So we've got the derivation path, it's just on standard derivation path. It's got the account index, which is 0 in this case. We can also add a custom name to all of the different accounts. So that's good. We can explore addresses. So this is the address explorer that's nice, all 4 different address types, receive addresses and change addresses. There we go. It's nice. We can sort of go through one at a time or 10 at a time. That's very nice. We can press that button there to actually just get a QR code on the screen. We can send it straight to that if we want. What happens if I go right? So if I press right, we can add extra accounts. Okay, so if I just say account, put that on index 1, we'll just call that secondary. Just wrote a new backup as well. So now we have a different account. So we have primary and we have secondary. So that's nice. That gives us a whole separate set of accounts. And this, okay, so this is where we get BIP39 passphrase. So let's enter a passphrase in here. Use passphrase we cleared upon shutdown. Yep. So let's just call it demo. How do we go upper and lowercase, I wonder? Oh, okay, so we press this button down here. There we go. And we can see as I press this button, it tells us there whether we're on uppercase, lowercase, or numbers. All right, and for symbols, we can see the symbols here. So how do we get to those? Let's see, if I just press, okay. So basically, how do I get to the number? Right, so basically if I've used this to select either upper or lowercase letters, this number 1 brings up the symbol map, whereas if that's on numbers, it just gives me the number 1, and the 0 here is probably the same for space. All right, so basically just like most devices, we can use any valid number, letter, or symbol, pretty much a standard ASCII for our passphrase. So we'll just say demo. So applying passphrase. Passphrase applied, and then that is the fingerprint. Right, so now it's applied the passphrase back to primary, and the secondary account is actually gone. So this is now our passphrase protected accounts. We can clear passphrase, change passphrase. And the thing that is very important to understand with BIP39 passphrases is that once you have added a BIP39 passphrase, you will need both the seed and the BIP39 passphrase used together to be able to access your funds. So this is very different from the device pin. and only use BIP39 passphrase if you understand how important this is and include this in your backups. You have been warned. Now, the other thing you might not have noticed is once I enabled passphrase, this little P shield icon appeared up here on the top left corner, which is really nice, and then it makes it really unambiguous as to whether you are using a passphrase or not. The other thing I noticed that's really nice is for both normal and passphrase protected accounts, these account names and the existence of multiple accounts, if you've added a second account, are all saved onto the device itself and also included on the encrypted backups if you basically edit these accounts or create them with a MicroSD inserted. So for example, if I just change the name for this account to, you know, test 2, and then hit save, it renames it, saves onto the device itself, and saves a copy to the encrypted MicroSD, making it really easy to keep track of all of your different accounts, passphrase protected and not, on the device itself, rather than just doing all of this naming and account keeping in your wallet software. And if I then just clear passphrase, will it put us back to our primary and secondary accounts? So it puts the fingerprint back to what it was. And our other accounts are back. So that's nice. So it's very obvious when you are using a passphrase. So we go into device setting, and if we go to the settings page, what do we got? So device, we can change the screen brightness, you know, up or down. We can change the auto shutdown, change pin, get some information about the battery, give the device a name, and also just see the, see some information about the device itself. We can back it up. So backup now, what does that do? That backs it to the MicroSD card. We can restore a backup from the MicroSD card. We can verify the backup. Oh yeah, so those are the backup files there that we can actually verify. Yep, so those digital backups. And view backup code. Okay, so this is this backup code here. So how do we actually get to see a seed? So we can see the firmware, and we did the update before, and we can show the current version. We can also see a boot counter, so the number of times this device has been booted up. So we can change the units. We can change, we can add multi-sig wallets from QR and change the policy for them. So that's very nice, stateful multi-sig, just like on a ColdCard. Here we go, so advanced. Okay, so this is a feature of ColdCard that was missing before. So we can actually say show at login. So what this will do is show us some security words when the device boots, so that we can know that our device has not been tampered with. Remember these words, want unknown. There we go. So now if I shut this down and restart it, it's going to show us those two words as part of the boot up and unlock process. Yes, just like a ColdCard. So basically you enter the first part of your PIN and then it shows you the security words. And if these words are not what you expect, you would stop entering your PIN because this device has been tampered with. And this is a useful feature that both the ColdCards and the Passport have, and it allows you to verify that your device is the actual device you think it is, and that someone hasn't swapped it out for another one before you enter your full PIN. So it basically protects you from having someone give you a fake device that would phish your PIN. Like everything, it's not entirely foolproof, but it is a good layer of security. We'll say yes, and then we'll keep entering the PIN. Okay, and we're back. So let's go back to the settings menu. So what else is in advanced? There we go. So view seed words. So we can view the seed words. Passport's about to display your seed words. Anyone requesting these words can take full control over your funds. Continue. Yep. So those are the seed words. So let's write those down. Okay, so we've written those down. Right, but it doesn't actually verify any of them again. This is exactly like a ColdCard. So we can look at the developer pub key. We won't worry about installing that. We can look at the MicroSD card. So basically in this MicroSD menu, we can do a few things. We can format the MicroSD card, which is pretty self-explanatory. We can also list all of the files on there, which includes the ability to actually do a SHA-256 sum of any of these files. So for example, if I go onto that firmware update that I put on there before, we could actually click on it and choose info and actually calculate the SHA-256 sum of the firmware update itself, meaning we could check the fingerprint that the file that we're about to flash onto this device matches the one that we expect on the website. And we could also use that for any other files on any microSD card we have. We can also then just export a wallet summary, which again just gives us some information about extended public keys, wallet addresses, and so on onto the memory card. We can format the card, list the words, we can erase, wipe the passport itself, and we can also do the security check workflow again. So this basically just does that process where we scan the QR code with the companion app. So those are the settings. We go to extensions. Oh, okay, so we can use this with Casa. We can also use this with Postmix, and we can use this with Key Manager. So let's turn those all on. So since we enabled those extensions, you'll notice there's a lot more dots along the bottom here. So if I just press the right-hand button, there we go, we can go through, and now we're into the extensions page. So this is Casa, so if we want to use it with Casa, we can do all of the Casa related things here. We can do all of the Postmix related things in here, and all of the Key Manager things in here. What sort of keys are we doing here? Oh, okay. So this is BIP85. So we're actually creating additional keys that we are generating on this device that will be derived from our original seed. Oh, that's nice. So I can just, there is space for 20 keys per wallet and keys cannot be deleted. Create keys wisely. Oh, okay. All right, so let's not go adding new ones just yet. And if we go to manager, so we can hide them, but we can't delete them. Right, okay. All right, so we looked at using this with Envoy. Let's add this to Sparrow. All right, so we've got Sparrow over here. So if I just say file, new wallet, we'll just call this passport demo. Okay, and what we can do is, firstly, let's just see if we can connect it via USB. So if I just say, so if I just plug this in via USB, and just say connect hardware wallet, will it find it? Doesn't look like it. Okay, so if we look at the documentation, we can see that this bottom USB-C port here is only for charging. Okay, so in Sparrow, we will say it is an air-gapped wallet, and there we go, we can actually see the passport here. And there are two ways we can do this. We can actually scan a QR code just off the passport itself, which has now put itself to sleep because I was too slow. Or we can actually import the wallet skeleton file. For the sake of simplicity, I'm just going to scan the QR code. So basically here in Sparrow, I will just click scan. And over here on the passport, I'm just going to do the primary account, which is the one I had in Envoy. I'll just say manage account, and I will go to connect wallet. So let's see, is Sparrow in the list here? Yeah, there it is. So I'll just select Sparrow. I'm just going to do single sig in this instance, and I'll do it by QR code. And there we go, that gives a QR code that Sparrow is scanning now. There we go. So if I click across, so let's check that the wallet is connected correctly. So I'll just say next, and it wants me to scan a receive address. So in Sparrow, I'll just say apply. I won't worry about a password, and I'll go into receive, and that is the first address there. So I'll just scan that straight off the computer. And we can actually see it has verified that that is address 0. So that is great. And if I click here on the transactions tab, we can actually see the transaction and the Bitcoin that I sent there before. Though interestingly, we can actually see that the receive address that was used by Envoy was actually the 5th address in the wallet there. So basically Envoy just increments the address every time you hit receive, rather than waiting for a transaction to appear in the previous address. Now, the fact that Envoy is not simply using the next unused Bitcoin address in the account isn't a massive issue of itself, but it is important to understand that most software wallets will simply give you the next unused address rather than incrementing them by some arbitrary amount every time you hit receive. So again, not a deal breaker, not a huge reason not to use Envoy, but just something to be aware of if you are someone who is maybe using a passport with both Envoy and some other wallet software. If you do have a situation where the wallet you're using can't see all the transactions you're expecting from Envoy, there'll normally be a setting called the gap limit that you could increase to something like 50 that should easily pick up all of the addresses that are being generated by Envoy. And let's just demo what the process of signing from a MicroSD card looks like. So if I just go into Sparrow now and hit send, and I'll just throw my tip address in there and just call it demo. And we'll just say max. And I'll say create transaction. So basically there is the transaction there. So I'll finalize for signing. Now in this instance, we can do this a few ways. We could just show a QR here in Sparrow and then scan that using the QR code exactly the same as we did with Envoy. But in this instance, let's do it a bit differently. So let's save the transaction to a microSD card. So we'll take our microSD card out. Just plug that into our computer. And here we will just say save transaction. We'll just navigate to the microSD card that we plugged in over USB and hit save. We can then just unplug that from our computer, plug it into here. And let's say sign with microSD. So we'll say tick, no files found. Tick. Oh, there we go. I was just too fast. So I just had to give that a minute to mount the microSD card. And now we can see all the files that we had on there before. So there's demo.psbt. So I'll load that, select, parsing transaction. Okay, so this is the same transaction that we can see over here in Sparrow. So we'll just confirm the details of that. It's giving the same warning we saw in Envoy because the fees are high at the moment for the transaction of this size. So I'll just say sign. And there we go. So it's actually saved the transaction back to the microSD card in two different ways, actually. Oh, that's very interesting. So it's actually saved the microSD card in two ways. So it's given us a PSBT file that we can load into Sparrow, and it's also given us a transaction that we can actually just broadcast using a block explorer, this TXN file. So we'll just remove this and we'll plug that microSD card back in. Okay, so over here on our computer, what we can do is we can say we want to load the transaction. So we can actually say that we want to load the signed PSBT file. So if I hit broadcast, that will send it. Alternatively, we can actually use this TXN file here, which is the just raw transaction to broadcast. And if I just open that up with a text editor, it'll basically just be a bunch of hexadecimal stuff. That TXN file is actually just the raw Bitcoin transaction. So I can actually just take this file and copy it. So if I just paste that raw transaction hex into something like block cipher, I can actually just make sure I got the right network selected and say decode transaction. And basically here, now I can actually see a human readable version of that transaction. You know, the inputs, the settings, as well as the outputs. That is all very nice. And basically then, once I'm ready to broadcast that transaction, I can actually click through to here, which will take me to another tool where I can actually just put in that transaction hex now that I've reviewed it and click broadcast. So that transaction has been sent. And so now if I go back into Sparrow, there we go, we can actually see that that transaction has just appeared in Sparrow, even though I didn't use Sparrow to broadcast it. Likewise, if I pull up that same account in Envoy, we can actually see that that transaction sending those funds back to my tip address is there now as well. Okay, and finally, let's see what happens if we factory reset this thing. And basically from here, I can just choose that I want to restore a backup. So let's see. Let's get the most recent one. That one there. That's interesting. I don't know what the backup password is, but we'll use the backup code. We'll just punch that code in that we got before. Okay, there we go, restore complete. There we go, and all my accounts, extensions, and everything are back. The other thing that's worth mentioning here is the documentation is really great, both for the passport itself, how to use it with a variety of different wallets, as well as for Envoy, and even stuff like here, you know, telling you how the encrypted backups work, with the documentation covering both novel stuff and even things like how to decrypt the digital backups without access to a passport device, which you can just do using 7-zip file manager. So for example, if I open up one of these backups off the MicroSD card and just open it using 7-zip, I can see the encrypted backup is just this file here, and if I double click on that and just type in this code here with a hyphen between each of the rows, basically we can view the decrypted file here. So obviously you would never want to do this through normal operation, especially on an internet connected PC. Now, the other thing that's important to mention about the Foundation Passport is it's a fully open source software and hardware stack. If we head over to the Foundation Devices GitHub, we can see the source code for the firmware, for the 2.0 version of the firmware. Basically, it has all the different stuff there and instructions on how to make a reproducible build, which is important to be able to verify that the firmware they are distributing is what it says it is. We can also see the hardware design of the device itself. So they've got all of the information there for the materials that you need, all of the electronic designs and schematics and things like that, and so on. And the other thing that's important to note is if we click on the license, we can see that all of this information is made available under an MIT license. So this is proper open source code. And the reason why I'm highlighting this is this actually was a big part of the original drama between ColdCard and Foundation when the Passport was announced and launched. In that if you look on the GitHub repository for ColdCard, you will actually see that it is actually not distributed under a proper open source license, meaning that the ColdCard does not get the benefit of other developers being able to use and build on top of the ColdCard's codebase, whereas something like the Foundation Passport is a proper free and open source product, meaning that it not only has its source available for members of the community to reproduce and to check is right, but also incentivizes developers, other people who have a technical background, to build on top of the software and hardware stack that Foundation have made. All right, summary time. So the main thing to say about the Passport is it is really a user-friendly version of the ColdCard. It has a lot of the same advanced features that the ColdCard has, obviously being built off the same software base from the older ColdCards, but does it in such a way, both in terms of the graphical interface of the device itself, the software and the companion that goes with it, and even the documentation and processes that you see along the way. It does all of these things in a way that is safe and easy even for newbies to use. While my personal preference would be to use third-party wallet software like Blue Wallet, Sparrow, and so on, the Envoy app that is supplied by the vendor for the Passport device is perfectly fine, does everything you need, and does it well. And most importantly, is easy to use, stepping you through all of the process and helping you to stay safe along the way as you do it. The feature phone style form factor is nice, and while I did find the buttons to be a little bit fiddly on a few occasions, it was never really a barrier to being able to use the device. The color screen is nice and vibrant, easy to read. The QR codes it presents are nice and big and easy to scan. So yeah, definitely a nice piece of hardware. And the emphasis on making the Passport something that is easy to use can even be seen on their web store, and that you can pay a bit extra to actually have a sort of assisted onboarding experience. All of these different things really help you to see that user experience and ease of use has been the priority for the Foundation Passport. It's also important to say that the majority of the advanced features from the ColdCard are still present here, in that you can still use the device for multiple accounts, you can still use it with third-party software, and you can use it with things like multi-sig from a variety of different providers. All fantastic features for advanced users. I've also added the Passport onto my hardware wallet feature comparison website, and you can see that it scores very well. And if we click through to the feature breakdown, you can see exactly the features that go into making that score. If you think the Foundation Passport would help boost security of your setup and want to help me out in the process, I'll have an affiliate link in the description. If you have any experiences with the device you'd like to share or any questions you would like to ask, definitely just leave a reply in the comments section. I do my best to reply to everything. Other than that, stay safe. Thanks for watching, I hope that was helpful. Hit like if you think that other people would find this video useful, and hit subscribe if you'd like to be kept in the loop about future content I make that helps people stay safe in the crypto space and to recover if they get into trouble. If you have any questions about this video or a topic that you'd like me to cover, just leave a reply.